which is funny because, Junker, they would probably be like a scavenger, and they use the term Junker in Guardians of the Galaxy, which is also owned by Disney. But, people complain that Hayden Christensen is a horrible... He portrays him very well. I don't see what the problem is. I guess I'm just mentally exhausting myself on this. I'll jump on the whole Hayden Christensen being a good actor and a good portrayer of Anakin Skywalker on another day, I guess, once I edit things down. That way I have more room on my phone because I don't have a computer to do this. Wouldn't that be nice? So, Star Wars The Force Awakens, there are Force abilities that have never been shown in Star Wars, which does bother me. And it really pulls me out of it every time I watch it, which is probably one reason why I'm not a fan, is I don't like being pulled out of a movie. I am not a fan of pausing a movie, and when I do, I actually jump the scene backwards, so that I can be back in that moment entirely. What? I'm not joking, my cat is fat. Like, she is a glutton like no tomorrow. Her bowl, we feed her, she runs to the bowl the minute she knows that we're over there. We're in the kitchen, she runs over there because she knows we have food. If I set something down, stop! Oh, get off me. Sorry, she's really annoying. I'm an animal lover, so maybe that's my reason, is I love her by default. But she will eat everything until, like... Okay, I'm going to show you this really quick. Alright. You see that? See? She ran right over because I'm in here. I'm going to pull up just to make sure, since I can't tell what you can see. Okay, you can't see it at all. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Okay, see, it's a Tupperware, has this little, nudge thing on the bottom. When that rim gets hit, meaning... Callie! Sorry, I'm just really irritated, especially with the fact she just, ran into me. I have poor balance as it is. But, the minute that, no matter how much food we put in there, she will leave barely anything in that rim, so that there's scraps left in it. And at that point, she will complain because she ate all of her food in one sitting, that she wants more, like she always has to eat. I think I might have stated this in another video, and in case that I didn't, there was last week, I'm sitting in my chair that you always see me sitting in, and she's over here, over here, staring out the window like she always does. Runs over, eats, and runs back, or walks back, or whatever. And within 2 to 5 minutes, not even joking, it was like, literally, she looked out the window for maybe 2 minutes, and then walks back and eats more. So my cat is legitimately a gluttony fat. So, I'm basically going to start just rambling because there was another thing that I was supposed to talk about, but I got on my Star Wars rant because I'm playing Resident Evil while listening to Star Wars videos. My complaint that I have, being that I love Resident Evil, I love timelines, and stuff like that. I question if I was an archivist in a past life because it kind of shows. But I've played Resident Evil 4, 5, 6. I've played a few others, but in terms of the numbers, in terms of the number games, I've played those ones. Which people complain about Resident Evil 4 because it was such the hardcore original trilogy ones that came out for PlayStation 1. It was horror-based, versus this one was kind of adventure-based, and they changed the view. It was a fixed third-person camera view. I kind of like that, because I do like first-person shooters. I do like first-person view, but I do like knowing there's a character. I like, mythos, I guess. I like having, some sort of continuity, like I said. But my problem is that 4, 5, and 6, 7 is supposed to be coming out soon, which actually, from what I've seen, jumps to first-person view, which is a drastic take from the typical Resident Evil stuff. I know there's like 1 or 2, like Umbrella Chronicles for the Wii. That was a first-person, almost arcade shooter game, but still, you at least had characters in that. That's one reason why I'm not a fan of some of this stuff. Like Call of Duty, you're just a soldier. You're a generic soldier. There's not much of a character. There's just a story that you're playing. At least that's how I feel about it. I've played Modern Warfare 3, and I think you play as like 3 different characters, but there's nothing there. You know, it's like I feel like I'm just a guy shooting a gun. I can't tell the difference between the character that I'm playing, which I liked having characters. But what I don't like about Resident Evil, as much as I love it with a passion, from what my complaint that is festering in me is chainsaws. Resident Evil 4 had like 3-4 different types of chainsaw sub-bosses, bad guy people. You know, you had Dr. Salvador, who showed up, which, this is what I don't understand, okay? Don't give your character a distinct personality name, like a last name. Dr. Salvador, that's a last name. We don't know his first name. I haven't looked up the wiki for him, but a lot of wikis for the bad guys are very generic. They're like, yeah, this guy created by the C virus, and yeah, he was based on a human. I don't understand how some of these C virus from Resident Evil 6 are human based, but I guess the Cocoon Metamorphosis, it makes sense somehow. I just wish that there was more to it. Like, honestly, I wish each character had its own development. I love character development. Dr. Salvador, I think we see, which I know it's kind of a fun thing for the gameplay itself, and I love gameplay stuff like this for the sake of I'm a gamer, so for the sake of it's a game, it's fun, it's cool. But at the same time, for sake of continuity, which, you know, obviously I have a different part of me that loves continuity, you know, gamer side and storyteller side, you know, different, whatever. Dr. Salvador should be one guy. And I think he comes back at least 2 or 3 times. But we have the Chainsaw Sisters, which I don't know if they have any distinct names. I just know that fans, or at least I called them, me and my buddy who introduced me to the franchise, way back when I was in middle school, he had Resident Evil 4, and I was like, oh my god. People complain that it, like, went astray from the franchise, which I don't understand, because the whole point on Resident Evil is it is the horror, it is basically the pioneer and foundation of the, what is it called? Horror. It's like a horror movie that you can interact with. It is one of the pioneers in horror-based video games. A lot of the things that go on in a horror movie, like even subgenres like psychological horror, you know, gore horror, all these, you know, gore fest or whatever, jump scare, all these subgenres, which we'll get into jump scare on another day, because god, does jump scare piss me off. Not necessarily in video games, though I've not played that many video games to say that 100%, but Hollywood has abused the fuck out of jump scare genre. You know, a horror movie is supposed to be, in of itself, horror. It's supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be terrifying. It's supposed to be horrific. It's supposed to be nightmarish. It's supposed to be something we are afraid of. In one sense or another, we don't like it. We are afraid of it. You know, we essentially don't want to see this happen to us or in our neighborhood or something like that, you know? If something happens in real life and it's considered, you know, and people say who lived it, they're like, what happened to me came straight out of a horror film. They say that because, like, things like Ed Gein, you have this guy who keeps himself, he's kind of and whatnot. I'm not saying he's retarded, but I'm saying, like, you know, he's kind of stumbling, you know, he's like, oh, hey, George, you know, what's going, you know, whatever, and you find out that he murdered, like, your neighbor's mom or something like that, you know, just hung carcass in his garage like a deer, like he went out hunting and he just hunted this person. So, ultimately, you know, that's horrific. Resident Evil as a franchise was one of those defining things. Each installment, for at least the main series, the number series, was supposed to be interactive horror movie and supposed to be scary and terrifying. psychologically and otherwise. The deaths in there, the creatures. Imagine it's not a video game. There's no CG. Imagine this was something that stood in front of you. That is the concept of what some of these things are. Nostalgia Critic did a top 11. It was, I think, his very first Nostalgiaween. I could be wrong on that. But he did a top 11 scariest performances. And he did it based on the concept of horror, you know. There was a character, one of the first ones, I think it was called Oliver or whatever. He talked about him and defined as like, you know, if this guy, he beat his wife or murdered her or whatever, he did all these things, even when he's trying to get his dog to come towards him, it's still very kind of like you're scared of what he's going to do with the dog. So, you know, that's the whole point on horror, and I don't think that as a company or as a storyteller or as a video game maker, the video game, again, it's supposed to be something, it's a game, but it's also a video. It's a video game. So a video is something that is supposed to, you know, inform you of things, of story or something. You know, it's supposed to be an interactive story. It's supposed to be a game, so it's supposed to be fun, whatever. But Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, like after Resident Evil 4, they realized, oh, this got us a lot more money, you know, after we've had troubles or whatever like that. And they started replicating it. Like, you know, Resident Evil 4 went away from zombies and they went more towards mutation, and they went more towards parasites and things where you were becoming a mutant more than a zombie. They went more towards intellectual bad guys where they can, in Resident Evil 4, you know, they were triggered and everything by basically, you know, they lived their normal life and were villagers until an outsider came in, and then they become hostile. Even when you defeat the game, it shows that all the villagers and the priests and everything from the castle, they were normal. And granted, that could have just been sketches from them before they were given the Las Plagas, but still. Resident Evil 5 had another weird parasite, which is basically, hey, we discovered this, you know, and almost Umbrella and all the bad guy corporations and gangs and whatnot in and organizations in Resident Evil almost reflect the corporations and whatnot in our reality, where they realized something was big and, you know, it made them a lot of cash, and they keep going with it despite what the public thinks. Like they target drones basically, where people, they accept what is fed to them. You know, to quote a movie that I kind of like, I saw the original 3, and you know, I kind of like it as I don't know, I kind of like the remake of RoboCop. Sorry, I do, and I'll go into that another time once I have a chance to rewatch the original 3 and the remake. Which, one thing that you have to keep in mind is that when you remake a movie, you oftentimes will, because you don't want to copy and paste it, which apparently is one reason why Psycho got, with Vince Vaughn, which I've not seen, got a lot of backlash, was the fact that it was a shot-for-shot remake. It was just, you know, had new characters and it was in color. And nobody liked that. So, and I can agree with that, even if I haven't seen it, which maybe I kind of probably will see it just because